Hey guys, how are you doing? Today I got a problem with my E36 when I dropped my son for his SAT exam, and when I made sure that he's inside the examination venue and I went back to my car, I went inside, and the problem is the shifting. As you can see, this shifter is shifting when the car is switched off, but when I switch on, this car should release this shifter from P to desired R, N or D once I depress the brake pedal. So I have depressed the brake pedal, but it's not coming out. You see, it's not releasing. Switch is on, brake pedal depressed. If you could see my foot down there, I'm depressing the brake pedal, but this is not releasing. So I thought for a while and just wanted to work it out on it, whether it is a blown fuse or it's just the shifter solenoid not receiving any signal from the brake pedal. Because once it's switching on the car on the position 2, um, that is clicking. So that is clicking. That means solenoid is working and it's receiving a signal from the ignition switch, but it's not receiving any signal from the brake pedal. You can see car is off, and once car is off, it is shifting normally. The reason being the solenoid is not locking the shifter from the notch somewhere beneath this covering plate. What we're gonna do is, right now I'm just standing on the road. My car is parked, but I have to, make sure that once I work on this thing to release my shifter to put it into D, I can drive back home. Once you troubleshoot that will take time. Obviously, in the garage somewhere where you will work it out, but going back home is important at the moment, so we can do something to release this. Okay, for that purpose I wanted to first take a couple of steps, release this covering plate. uh, this covering plate is having a couple of notches right here, where you can just a little wiggle it out and pull this plate up without breaking them. Make sure, but before you do that, you have to release this shifter knob. So put it into N, neutral. Just hold the trigger and pull it up. Here we go. So that's an aftermarket shifter. Its original shifter knob, this knob that is saved somewhere by me, but I'm using this aftermarket. Well, it's working fine so far. Now you can see there's no knob. Shifter is free from the knob locking. That's the knob locking. When you trigger it up, it moves up and down, and make sure that it works out as well. So it works out well. There's no problem from this. The problem is exactly from the shifter solenoid that is somewhere right there beneath. So we're gonna pull this plate out first of all, and for this you need to have a flat screwdriver, and you find a suitable place to, let's see, somewhere. I don't want this edge of the cowling and the covering plate to be damaged. So what I found out a little bit, which is available right now. I don't have a thinner flat screw, but I am using this already blown fuse somewhere, a scrap. Uh, its sharp edge will wiggle this plate much better. If you could see, we can place it right there and pull this plate. Just pull this plate up a bit. Now you can see the plate is a bit up, a bit, to give us a room to place our screwdriver. If you could see that. So I have placed my screwdriver right there, and after the screwdriver is right in place, you can move on with, let me just work it out with one hand and do that for you. Let's, okay, so you can see I'm pulling this plate up from this one notch. Place your finger right there and pull it from there, pull it from there. And now the plate is bit up. You can see there are two notches right there, so you don't have to break them, and in a very subtle way you can pull it up. So once the plate is pulled up, just put it aside, wait for a better view. So we are putting the plate right there. Make sure that it is not entangled somewhere. The wire might be broken. That's leading towards the sports economy and the snowflake switch. Okay, now there you go. You can see the solenoid right there. Okay, so you can see the shifter is not locked because the ignition switch is off. But when I switch on the car, you will see the solenoid will work and the notch will come out. You can see, here we go. You can see the notch is coming out of the solenoid right here. I'm switching it off because that's going to lock this shifter. You see, it's in the parking. You can't place it into reverse or any D drive or any other drive. I'm depressing my brake pedal right now, but it's not working. But when I'm switching off the car, you see it's going back, and now my brake pedal is released. My shifter is released. I have released my brake pedal as well. The problem is we can't start that. Let's say if I put it into D, okay, and start my car, it will not start because there's a safety element. When you put it into D, the 20 is in D, the car ignition will not be triggering the starter relay, and it's not going to start. Anyways, so on the road, what I can do is I can make a little solution which can work out for you as well and take you home. Once you go back home, and then you can diagnose well what's the problem, why this shifter is not receiving any signal from the brake pedal, but it does receive any signal from the ignition switch. So somewhere there's a problem in between the brake pedal switch and the solenoid wire. Either it's a blown fuse or somewhere the switch wire which is signaling to the solenoid is not working. Whatever it is, What we want is to, you know, set this pin inside. It should stay inside so that it is not contacting this shifter, you know, somewhere in the notch. Hence, by locking it, we want it to be inside. No matter we start the car, we depress the pedal, it should be inside. So guys, what you can do is just pick up a, a bit of paper. What I suggest, what I did was my visiting card, which I can't, you know, uh, this is my visiting card, which I just flipped, folded. Okay, right, this is my visiting card where I used to work. I have folded into half, and I'm going to slide this visiting card right there. As you can see, in between this, if you could see, I'm just zoom in. If you could see, we need to do something to bring a wall between this black shifter notch and the solenoid. All right, so I'm going to just slide this card right there. Okay, so this card is now in between. You can see this card is now in between the solenoid and the shifter lever, and it's becoming a wall. It's becoming a bit of wall in between the solenoid, this solenoid, and this shifter. So once we, now what you can see is I'm going to switch on the car. The car is switched on, and this brake pedal, this shifter will work out no matter I depress the brake pedal or not. So you can see it is shifting. All right, it is shifting back and forth, right? So this paper, this visiting card, is not letting the solenoid come, the solenoid knob or notch, to mate with the lever and thus lock in it. It's going to create an obstruction in between that, and therefore we can do this kind of solution to avoid being stranded on the road, and you can drive your car back home as normal. And what you can do is you can place this covering plate back on the lever, shifter lever, or you can place this cover right somewhere around, while just putting into D, going back home. And when you reach back home, you can troubleshoot whatever you want, and then you can fix all these cowling, covering, the way it was. This DIY solution is worthwhile for all those E36 enthusiasts, and this is a normal problem where the shifter solenoid sometimes doesn't receive any kind of signal from the brake pedal, and thereby making you stranded on the road by locking this shifter. So once the visiting card is in place, You can see once the visiting card is in place, uh, it's going to slide this shifter lever smoothly wherever you want, thereby blocking this simple electronic solenoid that is energizing after this. But I do not recommend this for long, because there is something unnatural that we are doing against the chemistry, the working chemistry of this solenoid. We are deliberately blocking that notch where the magnet is trying to get it, you know, out, or trying to just catch it in. So we are working against that electronics. However, you can reach back home with this. So there's, you can see a gap in between that, which is not going to make this solenoid lock this shifter due to this card, and shifter will be, you know. So let's start the car. Okay. So we have started the car, and I'm depressing the brake pedal and shifting into, you see, reverse, neutral, D drive. Henceforth, you can drive your car the way you want. Okay, so hope this works for all those who are having shifting problem or a solenoid problem somewhere in the morning. It's pretty easy. Keep your visiting cards handy, or some card which can be folded into two, fold one half, or something, which you can place in between the solenoid and the shifter. Okay, so I'm going to put this plate, covering plate, back on after when I diagnose the actual problem, and then I put the fixtures back and the knob back. But I'm right now going to drive back home. Thank you. Hope it works.